Katherine Collins stood frozen in the rain, watching through a cracked window as the man she'd sworn to destroy knelt before a room full of children. Her heart pounded. For 3 weeks, she'd tracked him like a criminal. The security footage didn't lie. He'd accessed restricted files, plugged unknown devices into her company's most sensitive systems. She'd come here tonight to catch a corporate spy. Instead, she found something that would shatter everything she thought she knew about success, loyalty, and the cost of second chances. He's doing it again. Katherine Collins didn't look up from her laptop. Monday night, 11:43 p.m., and she was still at her desk on the 15th floor of Nexus Technologies. Par for the course. Building a $3 billion company from nothing meant sleep was optional. David Chen, her chief security officer, stood in her doorway, holding a tablet. His tie was loosened. His expression said, "This couldn't... wait. Show me." David crossed to her desk and turned the tablet toward her. Security footage, black and white. Timestamp 11:21 p.m. Tonight, the executive floor, empty except for one figure in a custodial uniform, Jack Miller. Katherine leaned forward. On screen, Jack pushed his cleaning cart past the conference room, past the VP offices, straight to Katherine's door. He glanced left, glanced right. His hand went to the door handle. He was checking to see if anyone was watching. "Keep playing it," Katherine said. The next clip showed the inside of her office, her private office captured by the camera she'd had installed last week without telling anyone. Jack stood at her desk. No cleaning supplies, no mop. Just him, her computer, and a small black USB drive. Katherine's jaw tightened. How long was he in there? 17 minutes. Accessed the shared drive. Opened multiple folders. Which folders? David hesitated. Titan OS development, security protocols, integration specs. The product launch files. Katherine's voice could have frozen nitrogen. 6 weeks before the biggest release in company history, and our janitor is browsing the crown jewels. We don't know what he copied, what he downloaded, what he sent to competitors. Katherine stood walking to the windows. Silicon Valley spread below her like a glowing circuit board. 15 years she'd spent clawing her way to this view. 15 years of sacrifice, of missing her daughter's childhood, of choosing ambition over everything else. She'd be damned if some janitor destroyed it. Pull everything on Jack Miller, she said. Real employment history, not the sanitized version on his application. Financial records, social media, family. I want to know who he really is. Katherine, if we're wrong about this... She turned. Are you questioning my judgment? David met her eyes. 20 years they'd worked together since the garage days, when Nexus was just a dream and a laptop. He was one of the few people who could push back. I'm saying let's be sure before we accuse a man who's worked here 3 years without incident. 3 years of playing the perfect employee, building trust, waiting for the right moment. Katherine walked back to her desk. That's exactly what a good spy would do, or what an innocent person would do. Katherine picked up her phone. I want him monitored, every move, every keystroke. If he so much as looks at a computer wrong, I want to know. And if he's just a janitor trying to do his job, then he has nothing to worry about. But Katherine's instincts screamed otherwise, and her instincts had built an empire. Tuesday morning, 5:47 a.m. Katherine's Tesla pulled into the Nexus parking garage while stars still dotted the sky. She'd been awake since 3 a.m. running scenarios, calculating risks. Sleep was for people who didn't have $800 million on the line. The building hummed with pre-dawn quiet. Server fans, HVAC systems, and somewhere on the 3rd floor, the distant sound of a vacuum cleaner, Jack Miller's vacuum. Katherine found him in the engineering department, moving between cubicles with methodical efficiency. Push, pull, turn. His uniform was crisp despite the early hour. His movements had a rhythm to them, almost meditative. She watched from the hallway. This was the man who'd invaded her office, who'd accessed files that could sink her company. But watching him now, she felt something unexpected. Doubt. He looked exhausted, not guilty, not nervous, just bone-tired in the way people get when they work too much for too little. Katherine stepped into the light. "Mr. Miller." He spun. The vacuum died. For a split second, something flashed across his face. Was it fear? But he smoothed it away. "Ms. Collins." His voice surprised her. Educated, careful. "I didn't expect to see you this early." "I could say the same." She moved closer. "The building looks immaculate. You do excellent work." "Thank you." Silence stretched between them. Katherine studied his face. Mid-40s, maybe. Tired eyes, scarred hands that didn't quite match the janitor image. "How long have you been with Nexus?" She knew the answer, was testing him. 3 years next month. And before that, the pause was barely perceptible. "Contract work, different buildings, I moved around a lot. That must be hard on family." Another pause. "You make it work." Katherine tilted her head. "Do you have family, Mr. Miller?" His hands tightened on the vacuum handle. "A daughter, Emma. She's 11. Emma, the same name as Katherine's daughter. "Beautiful name," Katherine said. "Must be difficult working nights." "When do you see her?" "Before school, evenings when I can." His voice had cooled. "Ms. Collins was there something you needed?" "Just doing rounds, making sure everything's secure." She paused. "You know we're tightening security protocols. New badge requirements for all access points, even custodial staff." She watched his jaw muscle tighten. "Understood," he said. Katherine turned to leave, her heels clicking on the polished floor. She could feel his eyes on her back, could feel the weight of secrets hanging in the air between them. He was hiding something. She was going to find out what. That afternoon, David appeared in Katherine's office with a manila folder, thin, too thin. "This is everything?" Katherine asked. "Everything legal?" David sat heavily. "Katherine, before you read this, you need to know something." He pulled up an article on his tablet, 8 years old. The headline punched Katherine in the gut. "Senior architect terminated after whistleblowing scandal." The photo showed a younger man in a tailored suit standing outside a courthouse. Same face, same tired eyes. Jack Miller. Dynatech Industries. David said quietly. Jack was their senior systems architect, top of his field. Then he discovered they were shipping software with critical security vulnerabilities. Life-critical systems, hospitals, power grids, emergency services. Katherine read faster, her pulse quickening. When management refused to fix the problems, Jack went public, filed reports with regulatory agencies, talked to the press. David's voice was grim. Dynatech buried him, sued him for breach of contract, corporate espionage, theft of trade secrets. Legal fees bankrupted him. His wife filed for divorce 6 months later, cleaned out their savings. He lost his house, his career, everything. And then he disappeared. For 2 years, no digital footprint, no employment records, nothing. David paused, until he showed up on our custodial staff 3 years ago under a clean resume. Katherine stared at the photo, Jack in a suit, Jack with hope in his eyes, Jack before the world crushed him for doing the right thing. "So he's got a grudge," she said. "Perfect motive for corporate sabotage. Or he's got a daughter to feed and took the only job he could get by lying on his application. Would you hire him if he told the truth?" David's question hung in the air. "Katherine, this man sacrificed everything to protect people. Does that sound like someone who'd commit espionage?" Katherine closed the folder. "It sounds like someone who learned that corporations can't be trusted, someone who might want revenge. It sounds like someone who just wants to survive." Katherine stood, walked to her window. Below, the campus buzzed with activity. Engineers grabbing coffee, product managers in meetings. A whole ecosystem built on the foundation she'd created. And somewhere in that ecosystem, Jack Miller pushed a mop and hid his past. "I'm following him," Katherine said. "What, tonight? I'm going to see what Jack Miller does when he thinks no one's watching. David stood. Katherine, that's necessary. She turned. If he's innocent, I'll know. If he's planning something, I'll stop it before it starts. Either way, I can't trust anyone else with this. And if he catches you, Katherine's smile was cold. He won't. 10:17 p.m., Tuesday night. Katherine sat in her Tesla across from Nexus engine off, feeling ridiculous. She'd changed into jeans, running shoes, a dark jacket, pulled her hair into a ponytail. At 42, she was playing Nancy Drew, and some part of her brain screamed that CEOs don't do stakeouts. But the rest of her brain, the part that had built Nexus from nothing, knew that sometimes you had to get your hands dirty. Her phone buzzed. Emma, her daughter. Mom, are you coming home tonight? Katherine's chest tightened. Emma was 12, old enough to know her mother chose work over family dinners, over school plays, over everything. Soon, sweetheart, important meeting. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, no response. Katherine set down the phone, guilt gnawing at her. She'd tell herself she was building a future for Emma, creating generational wealth, setting an example of what women could achieve. But the truth was simpler and uglier. She was afraid of being ordinary. Movement caught her eye. Jack Miller emerged from the Nexus employee entrance, backpack slung over one shoulder. No car. He walked toward the bus stop, head down against the October wind. Katherine waited until he boarded, then followed. The bus headed west, away from the gleaming tech corridor, into neighborhoods Katherine rarely thought about. The houses shrank. Storefronts turned shabby. This was the other Silicon Valley, the service workers who cleaned the buildings where fortunes were made and couldn't afford to live within 10 miles of them. Jack got off near a strip mall with more for lease signs than open businesses. Katherine parked and followed on foot, staying back using parked cars for cover. This was insane. She was stalking an employee. If anyone found out, if the board discovered their CEO was playing detective, Jack turned down an alley. Katherine's heart hammered. This was it. The meeting, the handoff, whatever Jack was really up to. She crept to the alley entrance and peered around, then stopped breathing. The alley opened into a small courtyard behind an old community center. Light spilled from cracked windows. And through those windows, Katherine saw something that made no sense. Children. At least a dozen kids ages 8 to maybe 15 sitting at desks, old laptops in front of them, and there was Jack kneeling beside a small girl pointing at her screen. Katherine moved closer. Sound carried through the broken glass. See how the variable stores the number? Jack's voice was patient, gentle. Now, what if we want to add 2 numbers together? A boy's hand shot up. You use the plus sign. Exactly, Marcus. Want to try it? Katherine pressed against the wall, her mind reeling. She pulled out her phone, zoomed in through the window. The kids weren't just listening, they were coding. Fingers flying across keyboards, screens filled with text. A girl debugged an error. A boy created a simple animation. Another kid built a calculator. On the wall, someone had taped a handwritten sign, West Side Tech Club, where futures are coded. Katherine's hands shook as she took photos. Evidence, but evidence of what? She zoomed in on one of the laptops. Dell, cracked screen, serial number partially visible. Her breath caught. She knew that laptop. It had been in Nexus's disposal bin 3 weeks ago, scheduled for secure destruction. Jack had taken it, not to sell, not to steal data, to teach. I did it. A boy's voice exploded with joy. Mr. Jack, look, I made it work. That's incredible, Marcus. Now let's see if we can make it do something even cooler. Katherine backed away from the window, her mind spinning. 3 weeks of paranoia, 3 weeks of surveillance and suspicion, and the whole time Jack Miller wasn't stealing corporate secrets. He was stealing garbage to build futures. Her boot hit a metal trash can. The clang echoed like a gunshot. Inside, Jack's head snapped toward the window. Their eyes met through rain-spotted glass. For 3 seconds, neither moved. Katherine stood exposed in the alley. Jack stood frozen among the children. Then he said something to the kids and walked toward the door. Katherine should run, should leave, should process this information somewhere safe where she had control. Instead, her feet rooted to the concrete. The door opened. Jack stepped out. He didn't look angry. He looked resigned. "How long have you been watching?" His voice was quiet. "Long enough." Katherine's throat was dry. "You've been stealing from my company." "Yes," the admission hung between them. "Those are Nexus computers," Katherine continued, fighting to keep her voice steady. "Property designated for secure disposal. You removed them without authorization, used company equipment for what?" Jack's voice had an edge now. "For 12 kids who don't have computers at home, who don't have internet, whose schools can't afford technology classes." He gestured toward the building. "Nexus throws away 50 laptops a month. Perfectly good machines that aren't fast enough for your engineers. So they get shredded, turned into scrap, while brilliant kids like Marcus and Maya and Destiny have nothing. That doesn't give you the right." "You're right, it doesn't." Jack's jaw clenched. "So fire me, call the police. But those kids didn't do anything wrong. The computers are set up, curriculums planned through June. You shut this down. You're not punishing me, you're punishing them." Katherine stared at him. "You could have asked. We have corporate donation programs." Jack laughed. No humor in it. "Could have asked Ms. Collins. I know exactly how corporate giving works. I used to be part of that world, remember?" His voice turned bitter. "Companies donate to schools that already have funding. They write checks to charities that put their logo on buildings. But a rundown community center in a forgotten neighborhood, kids whose parents can't advocate for them." He shook his head. "That doesn't generate press releases, doesn't boost stock prices, doesn't matter. You don't know that, don't I?" He met her eyes. "I know exactly how this industry works. I was one of you once, before I learned that doing the right thing means losing everything." Silence fell. Cold October wind whistled through the alley. Katherine looked at him. Really looked. At the scars on his hands from manual labor, at the exhaustion carved into his face, at the dignity he wore like armor. "Show me," she heard herself say. "What? Show me what you're teaching them." Jack studied her face, searching. Then slowly he nodded. Inside, 12 pairs of eyes turned toward Katherine. The kids went silent, suddenly wary. They knew expensive clothes when they saw them. "Everyone, this is Ms. Collins," Jack said carefully. "She's visiting, wants to see what we're working on." A girl in the front row narrowed her eyes. "Is she from the city? They shutting us down again?" "Nobody's shutting anything down, Maya." Jack's voice was firm. "Why don't you show Ms. Collins your project?" Maya hesitated, protective of her screen, then slowly turned her laptop. A website, simple but functional, color-changing background, a form for entering names, a welcome message that displayed whatever you typed. "It's a greeting page," Maya explained, gaining confidence. "HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Mr. Jack says if I keep practicing, I can build real websites for businesses and stuff." Katherine knelt down, examining the code. Basic, yes, but the logic was sound. The syntax clean. This 10-year-old from a neighborhood without resources was learning skills that commanded 6-figure salaries. "This is really good work, Maya." The girl's face lit up. Really, you mean it?" "I do. Have you thought about what kind of websites you want to build?" And Maya was off talking about a community calendar, a recipe site for her grandmother's cooking, maybe even a game someday. Her enthusiasm was infectious, pure, untainted by cynicism. Katherine moved through the room. A boy named Marcus built a calculator that could handle percentages. A girl called Destiny worked on data visualization. Another kid debugged a simple animation. They used free online resources, cobbled together tutorials, whatever they could access. And Jack was there with each one, patient, present, seeing them in a way Katherine realized she hadn't really seen her own daughter in months. Mr. Jack used to build real programs, Marcus said proudly, like actual software for hospitals and everything. He knows everything about computers. Jack's expression flickered. That was a long time ago. But you still remember, right? Marcus looked up at him with complete trust. You said knowledge doesn't expire. No, Jack's voice was soft. It doesn't. Katherine watched him help Destiny debug a chart. His hands moved with practiced ease across the keyboard. These weren't the hands of someone who'd forgotten his craft. These were the hands of someone who'd been forced to abandon it. A girl tugged Katherine's sleeve. Are you really a CEO? I am. What's that like? Katherine opened her mouth, closed it. What was it like? Lonely, exhausting, consuming. She'd sacrificed everything: marriage time with Emma, friendships for success. And standing here in this run-down community center watching Jack give these kids what they needed most, she wondered what she'd really won. It's complicated, Katherine said finally. The girl nodded seriously. Mr. Jack says complicated things are usually the most important. An hour later, parents arrived. Tired people in work uniforms, nurses, retail workers, bus drivers, grateful for a safe place their children could learn. They thanked Jack with quiet sincerity. He waved them off, embarrassed. When the last child left, Jack started packing up the computers with careful hands. I'll come by Nexus Monday, he said without looking at her. Pack my things, make it easy. Jack, it's fine. He didn't stop packing. I knew the risk when I started. I just hoped I'd have more time before... He stopped, shook his head. Doesn't matter now. How long have you been doing this? 2 years. Started with 3 kids and 2 pawn shop laptops. Word spread. He finally looked at her. I wasn't trying to hurt Nexus, Ms. Collins, just trying to help. By stealing. By rescuing waste. His voice hardened. Those computers were headed for a shredder. Now they're giving kids a chance. You tell me which is the bigger crime. Katherine had no answer. She looked around the community center. Water-stained ceiling, flickering lights, mismatched furniture held together with duct tape. This was where Jack spent his nights after cleaning her gleaming office. This was what he risked everything for. The files you accessed on my computer, she said slowly. What were you looking for? Jack was quiet for a long moment. Recycling schedules, equipment disposal logs, trying to figure out when the next batch of computers would be available. He met her eyes. That's all. That's all. That's all, I swear. Katherine's mind raced. Titan OS, the launch, the paranoia that had consumed her for weeks, all of it based on a man trying to predict when she'd throw away more garbage. She thought about the photo David showed her. Young Jack in a suit, Jack standing up for what was right, Jack losing everything. She thought about her daughter Emma, the same age as these kids, who had every advantage and appreciated none of them. She thought about who she'd become in pursuit of success. You should have told me, Katherine said. Would you have listened? The honest answer sat between them like a stone. Jack finished packing the last laptop, picked up his worn backpack, headed for the door. Jack, he stopped. Katherine took a breath, about to make either the smartest or stupidest decision of her career. Don't pack your things, not yet. He turned confused. I need to think, Katherine said. Really think. And I need you to tell me everything. Dynatech, the whistleblowing, what happened, all of it. Why? Because I've spent 3 weeks thinking you were my enemy. Katherine's voice caught, and I need to understand if I was wrong. Jack studied her face. And if you decide you weren't wrong, then you lose your job and I shut this place down. Katherine met his eyes. But if I was wrong, if you're who I think you might be, then maybe there's a better way, a legal way, a sustainable way. Hope flickered across Jack's face, quickly suppressed. You mean that I don't say things I don't mean? Katherine pulled out her phone. There's a diner 2 blocks from here. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Bring everything, curriculum, budget, wish list, all of it. And then we'll see if a CEO and a janitor can find common ground. She walked to the door, paused. Jack, those kids are lucky to have you. His voice was rough. I'm the lucky one, Ms. Collins. They remind me why any of this matters. Katherine stepped into the October night. Her Tesla was parked down the block, warm and waiting, but she stood there letting the cold air clear her head. She'd come here to catch a thief. Instead, she'd found a mirror. Jack Miller had sacrificed everything for principle. What had she sacrificed for shareholder value, market position, a corner office? Her phone buzzed. Emma again. Love you, Mom, even when you're not here. Katherine's eyes burned. She typed back, love you too, sweetheart. I'll be home soon. And this weekend, let's do something together. Just us. Your choice. The reply was instant. Really? Can we go to the Science Museum? Absolutely. Katherine pocketed her phone and looked back at the community center. Through the window, she could see Jack turning off lights, checking locks, caring for this place the way she cared for Nexus. Maybe David was right. Maybe she'd been wrong about him, or maybe they'd both been wrong about each other. Tomorrow night would tell. She got in her car. The engine purred to life. Silicon Valley glittered in the distance, a billion points of light, representing a billion dreams. Somewhere in that glow, her company prepared to launch Titan OS. Somewhere algorithms ran and data flowed and fortunes were made. But here in this forgotten neighborhood, 12 kids had learned something that couldn't be monetized or optimized or disrupted. They'd learned that someone believed in them. Katherine drove home through empty streets, her mind already racing toward tomorrow, toward questions that would change everything. Behind her, Jack Miller stood at the window and watched her taillights disappear into the night. He'd told her the truth. Now all he could do was wait. Tomorrow would determine if Katherine Collins was who he hoped she might be, or if he'd just confessed his way into unemployment. Either way, he'd sleep tonight knowing he'd done right by those kids. That would have to be enough. The lights went dark, the door locked, and in the silence that followed, possibility hung in the air like a held breath. The diner smelled like coffee and decades of fried food. Katherine arrived at 7:53 p.m. early by design. She chose a booth in the back corner where she could see the entrance. Old habits from negotiating deals always control the room. She ordered black coffee she wouldn't drink and checked her phone. Emma had sent a photo from dinner with the nanny. Spaghetti night. Her daughter's smile looked genuine, but Katherine knew better. Emma had stopped asking when Mom would be home for dinner months ago. Katherine put the phone away. At 8:02, Jack walked in. He'd showered, changed into clean jeans and a button-down shirt. He carried a battered messenger bag and looked like he hadn't slept. He spotted her and crossed the diner with measured steps. Ms. Collins. Katherine, we're not at the office. He slid into the booth across from her. Katherine. The waitress appeared. Jack ordered coffee. They sat in silence until she left. You came, Katherine said. You said 8 p.m. People don't always do what they say. Jack met her eyes. I do. Katherine believed him. That was the problem. Everything about Jack Miller screamed integrity, and her entire worldview was built on the assumption that everyone had an angle. Show me what you brought, she said. Jack pulled a worn notebook from his bag, opened it. Pages filled with handwriting lesson plans, student progress notes, supply lists. He slid it across the table. Katherine flipped through. The detail was staggering. Each student had their own section, learning styles documented, goals tracked, challenges noted. This wasn't a side project. This was a curriculum built with the same care she'd seen in enterprise software documentation. Maya struggles with syntax but has incredible design intuition, Jack said quietly. Marcus learns by doing. Give him a problem to solve, and he'll figure it out. Destiny needs to understand the why before the how. I adjust for each of them. How many hours a week do you spend on this? 20, maybe 25. On top of a full-time custodial job? Yes. When do you sleep? Jack smiled without humor. When I can. Katherine turned a page, found a budget, numbers that made her heart ache. $50 for used textbooks, $30 for router repairs, $15 for power strips. This is what you're working with. Most of it comes from my paycheck. Sometimes parents chip in $5 or $10. Last month, Mrs. Henderson donated $20 because her son finally passed his algebra test after Marcus tutored him. Katherine did the math in her head. Jack made maybe $35,000 a year as a janitor. He was spending nearly 20% of that on other people's children. The community center doesn't help. They let us use the space for free. That's all they can afford. Jack's hands wrapped around his coffee cup. The building needs a new roof. The plumbing barely works. They're hanging on by their fingernails. Katherine set down the notebook. Tell me about Dynatech. Jack's jaw tightened. It's relevant. If we're doing this, I need to understand who you are. Who I was, Jack corrected. That person doesn't exist anymore. Then tell me what happened to him, Jack was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was flat, rehearsed like he'd told this story to lawyers too many times. I was senior systems architect at Dynatech, led a team of 40 engineers. We built software for critical infrastructure hospitals, emergency response systems, power grids. Important work. He stared at his coffee. Then I found the bugs. What kind of bugs? The kind that kill people. Jack's voice was steady, but his hands shook. Memory leaks in hospital monitoring systems. Race conditions in 911 dispatch software. We're talking systems that handle life and death decisions, and they had flaws that could cause catastrophic failures. Katherine leaned forward. You reported them. To my manager, to his manager, to the VP of engineering. Everyone said the same thing, we'll fix it in the next release. Ship now, patch later. Jack's eyes hardened. Except later meant 6 months, and those systems were going live in hospitals across the country in 3 weeks. So you went outside the company. I filed reports with the FDA, the FCC, contacted journalists. I thought... He stopped, laughed bitterly. I thought truth mattered. I thought if people knew, they'd have to act. What happened? Dynatech's legal team happened. They sued me for breach of contract, theft of trade secrets, corporate espionage, claimed I'd fabricated the bugs to damage the company, leaked confidential documents, violated my NDA. Jack's voice cracked. They had better lawyers than I could ever afford. The case dragged on for 18 months. Legal fees destroyed me. Your wife left. Jack flinched. Sarah. We'd been married 9 years. Emma was 3. He stared at the table. Sarah said she didn't sign up for this. Didn't sign up for bankruptcy and scandal and having her husband's name dragged through the news. She filed for divorce, took everything in the settlement. I didn't fight it. I was too tired. Katherine's chest tightened. And Dynatech. They settled with the regulatory agencies, paid a fine, promised to fix the bugs. No admission of wrongdoing. Jack's smile was broken. I got blacklisted across the industry. My name was flagged in every HR database. Nobody would hire me, not for architecture work, not for junior engineering, not even for tech support. So you became a janitor. I became whatever would pay rent and put food on the table for the weekends. Emma stayed with me. Jack met her eyes. I'm not ashamed of custodial work. It's honest. It's necessary. But yes, it's not what I trained for, not what I'm capable of. Katherine thought about the community center, about 12 kids learning to code, about a man who'd lost everything and still found a way to give. Why didn't you tell Nexus the truth when you applied? Would you have hired me if I had? Katherine wanted to say yes, wanted to believe she would have seen past the scandal to the man's integrity. But they both knew the answer. No, she said quietly. I wouldn't have. Then you understand why I lied. Jack's voice was gentle, not accusatory. I needed a job. Emma needed stability. The truth was a luxury I couldn't afford. They sat in silence. The diner buzzed around them, other conversations, clinking dishes, the hiss of the coffee machine, normal people living normal lives. "What do you want?" Katherine asked finally. "From me, from this meeting. What's the outcome you're hoping for?" Jack pulled a folded piece of paper from his bag, slid it across the table. Katherine unfolded it, a wish list, written in the same careful handwriting as the lesson plans. 15 refurbished laptops, high-speed internet installation, coding textbooks, professional development software licenses, a part-time teaching assistant, annual budget $12,000. Katherine did the math. $12,000. That was less than she'd spent on Emma's birthday party last year, less than her monthly car payment. A rounding error in Nexus's budget. "This is what you need. It's what the kids need," Jack corrected. "With that, I could expand to 30 students, offer advanced classes, maybe even get some kids ready for AP Computer Science before high school." "Why stop at 30? Jack looked surprised. "What do you mean? Why not 50 students? Why not 100? Why not scale this properly?" "Because I'm one person working nights and weekends. Because the community center barely has room for 12 kids, let alone—" "What if you had resources?" Katherine interrupted. "Real resources, funding, space, support staff. What could you do then?" Jack stared at her. "Are you serious?" "I'm always serious." Katherine pulled out her phone, started typing notes. "Nexus has a corporate social responsibility budget. Most of it goes to performative nonsense charity galas, sponsored 5Ks, matching donations to schools that don't need it. What if we redirected some of that here?" "Katherine, I can't ask you to." "You're not asking, I'm offering." She looked up. "But I need something from you first." Jack's expression shuddered. "What? The truth. Complete honesty. No more hiding. If we're doing this, if Nexus is going to support this program, I need to know I can trust you. Which means you need to come clean, officially, update your employment records, full disclosure about Dynatech. I'll lose my job. Not if I approve the disclosure." Katherine's voice was firm. "I'm the CEO. I can authorize it. But Jack, if I'm going to put my company's reputation behind this, I need to know there won't be any more surprises." Jack was quiet for a long time. Katherine could see him calculating risks, weighing options, fighting years of learned paranoia. "Okay," he said finally. "Full disclosure, I'll update everything tomorrow." Katherine nodded, started typing faster. Her brain was already 10 steps ahead. Budget allocations, PR, strategy, legal review. This could work. This could actually work. Her phone buzzed. "David Chen. Katherine, we have a problem. Call me immediately." She frowned. David knew she was in this meeting, wouldn't interrupt unless the phone rang. "David." Katherine answered. "This better be important." "It's Titan OS." David's voice was tight with panic. "The beta build is failing across all test environments. Complete system crashes. We can't figure out why." Katherine's blood went cold. "What do you mean you can't figure out why? We've got the best engineers in the valley working on this." "I know, but Katherine, the failure mode is cascading. It's affecting core architecture, the kind of stuff that—" David paused. "The kind of stuff that was designed 4 years ago in the original build." 4 years ago. When Nexus first started developing Titan OS, when they'd licensed the foundational code from Katherine's eyes snapped to Jack. "I need to go," she said into the phone. "Don't touch anything. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She hung up. Jack was watching her. "Problem?" he asked. Katherine's mind raced. The timing was too perfect. She meets with Jack and suddenly Titan OS, the $800 million product launch, starts failing. No, she was being paranoid again. Jack couldn't have, but he'd been in her office, accessing files, and he'd worked at Dynatech, which meant he understood enterprise software architecture at a level most engineers never reached. "Katherine," Jack's voice was cautious. "What's wrong?" She looked at him, saw concern, not guilt, not calculation, just genuine worry. "I have to get back to the office," she said, standing. "Emergency." Jack stood too. "Is there anything I can—" "No." The word came out sharper than she intended. I'll contact you about the community center. We'll figure something out. She was already walking toward the door. Jack called after her. Katherine, wait, the notebook. Keep it. I've seen what I needed to see. She pushed through the diner door into the October night. Her hands shook as she unlocked her Tesla. This was coincidence. Had to be coincidence. Jack wouldn't sabotage Titan OS. He'd just spent an hour convincing her to trust him. He wouldn't, unless the whole thing was a setup, unless the community center was cover, unless Katherine slammed her palms against the steering wheel. Stop it! Stop thinking like this! But she couldn't, because her company was burning and the only person who'd accessed her systems without authorization was Jack Miller. She pulled out of the parking lot, tires squealing. 20 minutes to Nexus, 20 minutes to find out if her instincts about Jack were right, or if she'd just been played by the best con artist she'd ever met. Back in the diner, Jack sat alone in the booth staring at the cold coffee. He pulled out his phone, a text from Emma. Dad, can you help me with my coding homework tomorrow? He smiled despite the knot in his stomach. Of course, sweetheart. What are you working on, loops? They're confusing. Loops are fun once you understand them. We'll figure it out together. He paid the check and walked out into the night. The meeting had gone better than he'd hoped. Katherine seemed genuinely interested in helping. Maybe this could actually work. Maybe he could finally build something good from the wreckage of his old life. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but old instincts from his Dynatech days kicked in. Unknown numbers sometimes meant important calls. Hello. Is this Jack Miller? A woman's voice, young, nervous, who's asking, My name is Sarah Chen. I'm an engineer at Nexus. I need your help. Jack froze. I'm sorry, you have the wrong number. Please don't hang up. I know who you are. I know what you did at Dynatech. Sarah's words rushed out. And I know you're the only person who can help us right now. Titan OS is crashing, the architecture is failing, and nobody can figure out why. But I've been reading about the Dynatech case, and the bugs you found, they're similar to what we're seeing. The cascading failures, the memory corruption. It's like someone built faulty foundations and everyone else just kept building on top. Jack finished quietly. Exactly. Relief flooded Sarah's voice. Can you help? Please, I know I'm asking a lot, but who gave you my number? Pause. David Chen. He's my uncle. He said you might be able to help, but that I shouldn't tell Ms. Collins I called you because she's complicated about this stuff. Jack closed his eyes. David was taking a massive risk. If Katherine found out her security chief was routing engineering problems to the janitor behind her back, I can't, Jack said. I'm sorry. I'm not an engineer anymore. I clean buildings. That's all. But you could look at it. Just look. If you're right about what's wrong, you could save. I said no. Jack's voice was firm. I'm sorry. Find someone else. He hung up, stood in the parking lot breathing hard. This was exactly what had destroyed him at Dynatech. Getting involved, trying to help, thinking he could make a difference. He'd learned his lesson. Keep your head down, do your job, don't be a hero. His phone buzzed again. Sarah Chen, I'm sending you the error logs anyway. You don't have to do anything with them, but if you happen to see something obvious, maybe you could let me know. These are people's jobs on the line. The whole launch, a file attachment. Jack stared at his phone. Don't open it, delete it, walk away. His thumb hovered over the delete button. Then he thought about Katherine in the diner, the way she'd looked at his wish list. The possibility that had flickered between them that maybe, finally, he could do meaningful work again. If Titan OS failed, that possibility died. Katherine would be consumed with damage control. The community center would be forgotten. Everything would go back to the way it was. Jack opened the file. The error logs scrolled across his screen. His engineer brain kicked in automatically, parsing the data, recognizing patterns. And there it was, buried in thousands of lines of diagnostic output. A memory leak in the core authentication module. The kind of bug that would seem harmless in testing, but catastrophic at scale. The kind of bug that wouldn't show up until you had thousands of simultaneous users. The kind of bug Jack had seen before. at Dynatech. He knew how to fix this, could probably patch it in a few hours if he had access to the source code, but getting involved meant risking everything again, meant stepping out of the shadows, meant trusting that this time doing the right thing wouldn't destroy him. Jack stood in the parking lot for 5 minutes, phone in hand, war raging, and pumped his head. Then he texted Sarah Chen. "I'll look at it, but nobody can know, especially not Ms. Collins. Not yet." The reply was instant. Thank you so much. I'm sending you secure access credentials now. Please hurry." Jack walked to his car, a 15-year-old Honda with 200,000 miles on it. He sat behind the wheel and stared at the credentials on his phone. This was insane. He was a janitor. He had no authorization. If he accessed Nexus systems and Katherine found out, but if he didn't and Titan OS failed, how many people would lose their jobs? How much damage would it do? And beneath all the logical arguments, one truth hummed in his chest. He missed this. God help him, he missed solving problems that mattered. Jack started the car and drove toward Nexus Technologies, toward the building he cleaned every night, toward a choice that would change everything. 20 minutes away, Katherine burst through the Nexus executive entrance. David met her in the lobby, tablet in hand, expression grim. "How bad?" she demanded. "Bad. Engineering's been working on it for 3 hours. The failure pattern is unlike anything we've seen. Every fix creates 2 new problems." They rode the elevator to the 15th floor. The executive wing was blazing with light, filled with engineers who should have gone home hours ago. Katherine walked into the war room, whiteboards covered in diagrams, laptops everywhere, her best people looking exhausted and defeated. "Status," she barked. Her chief technical officer, Marcus Webb, looked up. "We're stuck. The crashes originate in the authentication module, but when we try to isolate it, the whole system destabilizes. It's like the bug is designed to resist fixing." Katherine's stomach dropped. Designed? Poor word choice. I mean, it's deeply embedded in the architecture. Whoever built this module. Marcus stopped, checked his notes. Code signature says it was developed 4 years ago. Original development team. Can we rebuild the module from scratch? Not in time for launch. We're talking weeks of work, maybe months. And we'd have to regression test everything. 6 weeks until launch. $800 million on the line. Her entire company's future hanging by a thread. "Then find another way," Katherine said. "I don't care what it takes. Fix it." But looking at the exhausted faces around her, she knew they'd already tried everything they could think of. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a whisper. Jack would know how to fix this. Jack, who'd built enterprise software for years, who'd found critical bugs at Dynatech, who understood architecture at a level these younger engineers, brilliant as they were, couldn't match. Jack, who she'd just accused of betrayal 3 hours ago. Katherine pulled out her phone, stared at it. She could call him, beg for help, admit she needed the janitor to save her company, or she could let pride destroy everything she'd built. Her finger hovered over Jack's contact. Then the fire alarm went off. "That's not a drill," David said, checking his tablet. "3rd floor, server room." Katherine ran. Katherine hit the stairwell at a dead run, David half a step behind her. 3 flights down, emergency lights strobing red across concrete walls. Her mind raced through worst-case scenarios, data loss, hardware damage, insurance, claims, regulatory nightmares. She burst through the 3rd floor door into chaos. Engineers evacuating with laptops clutched to their chests, the acrid smell of electrical smoke, and there, standing outside the server room in his custodial uniform, holding a fire extinguisher, was Jack Miller. Their eyes met. "What the hell are you doing here?" Katherine demanded. Jack lowered the extinguisher. "My job. I was cleaning the break room when the alarm went off." David pushed past them into the server room, came out 30 seconds later. Overheated cooling unit, no actual fire. The extinguisher wasn't even needed. Katherine's heart was still hammering. She looked at Jack, then at the server room door. You were just cleaning. Yes, at 9:30 at night. My shift starts at 10. I come in early sometimes. Jack's voice was carefully neutral. Is there a problem? Yes, Katherine wanted to scream. The problem is my entire company is falling apart, and you're the only person who might be able to save it, and I can't ask you because I don't know if I can trust you. Instead, she said, no, thank you for responding quickly. Jack nodded, started to walk away. Wait. The word came out before Katherine could stop it. Jack turned. The Titan OS failure. You heard about it. Something flickered in Jack's eyes. I heard the alarm, that's all. He was lying. Katherine could see it in the tension of his shoulders, the careful way he held himself. He knew something. Jack, if you know anything that could help, I'm a janitor, Ms. Collins. I don't know anything about software architecture. His voice was flat. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. He walked away. Katherine watched him go, frustration burning in her chest. David touched her elbow. Let him go. We've got bigger problems. They rode the elevator back to 15 in silence. Katherine's phone buzzed continuously. Board members demanding updates, investors asking questions, the press sniffing for blood. Back in the war room, Marcus had new information. None of it good. The authentication module is corrupting data across the entire system, he said, pointing at a diagram that looked like a wiring nightmare. Every time a user logs in, it creates a memory leak. Small at first, but scale that to 10,000 simultaneous users, and the system crashes, Katherine finished. How long to rebuild the module? Marcus grimaced. 6 weeks minimum. That puts us past launch date. Delay the launch. Katherine, we've got contracts, pre-orders, press events scheduled. If we delay, if we launch broken software, we're dead. Katherine's voice cut through the room like a blade. I will not ship a product that crashes. I will not be Dynatech. The room went silent. Katherine realized what she'd said. Dynatech, the company that had destroyed Jack for trying to stop them from doing exactly what she was refusing to do now. Find me options, she said quietly. I don't care how radical. I want solutions on my desk by morning. The engineers scattered. David waited until they were alone. You should ask him, he said. Ask who? Don't play dumb. Jack Miller built enterprise authentication systems for 8 years. If anyone can see what we're missing, he's a janitor with a falsified employment record who I caught stealing company property 48 hours ago. Katherine's voice was sharp. I'm not handing him the keys to our most sensitive product, even if he's the only one who can save it. Katherine turned away, stared out at the Silicon Valley night. Somewhere out there, Jack was mopping floors. Jack who'd sacrificed everything at Dynatech to stop broken software from shipping. Jack who she'd been ready to trust 3 hours ago. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then recognized the area code. Emma's school. Ms. Collins, this is Principal Edwards. I'm sorry to call so late, but Emma's still here. The aftercare program closed at 9 and... Katherine's heart stopped. What I arranged for the nanny to pick her up at 6. The nanny called in sick this afternoon. She said she left you a message. Katherine scrolled through her notifications. They're buried under 50 work emails, a text from the nanny sent at 4 p.m. She'd been so focused on Jack on the meeting on the crisis, she'd never seen it. I'm so sorry, Katherine said, already running for the elevator. I'm coming right now, 15 minutes. She hung up. David was staring at her. How you go? He said. I'll hold down the fort here. Katherine ran. Her Tesla broke speed limits across the valley. She called Emma's cell 3 times. No answer. Guilt churned in her stomach like acid. What kind of mother forgets to pick up their child? What kind of person was she becoming? She screeched into the school parking lot at 9:47. The building was dark except for one lit window, the principal's office. Katherine ran inside, found Emma sitting in a chair, backpack on her lap, eyes red from crying. Baby, I'm so sorry. Katherine knelt down, pulling Emma into a hug. I'm so sorry. Emma was stiff in her arms. You forgot about me. I didn't forget. I just got crazy and you always forget. Emma pulled back. Her voice was small but sharp. You forgot my recital last month. You forgot parent-teacher conferences. You forgot my birthday dinner and then threw that huge party to make up for it that I didn't even want. Each word was a knife. Katherine felt them all. You're right, she said quietly. You're absolutely right. I've been a terrible mother. I don't want you to be terrible. Emma's voice cracked. I just want you to be there. Principal Edwards cleared his throat gently. Why don't I give you two some privacy? He left. Katherine sat in the chair next to Emma, not sure what to say. How do you apologize for choosing ambition over your child? How do you explain that you thought you were building a better future when you were actually just running from the present? I met someone today, Katherine said finally. A man who has a daughter your age. Emma, same as you. Her daughter looked up. Really? And he doesn't have much money. Works 2 jobs just to keep a roof over their heads. But you know what? He still finds time for her, still helps with homework, still shows up. Why are you telling me this? Katherine took Emma's hand. Because seeing him made me realize I've had my priorities backwards. I kept telling myself I was working so hard for you, to give you opportunities, to build something you could be proud of. But the truth is, I was doing it for me, and I've been a coward about admitting it. Emma was quiet for a moment. Do you even like your job? The question caught Katherine off guard. Did she like it? She loved the strategy, the problem-solving, the building, but the endless meetings, the politics, the constant pressure, parts of it, Katherine said honestly. But I don't like who I've become doing it. Then why don't you stop out of the mouths of children? Katherine smiled despite everything. It's complicated. That's what adults always say when they don't want to change. Katherine laughed, a real laugh. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart, you just never noticed. That hurt. But Emma wasn't wrong. Katherine stood helping Emma up. Come on, let's go home. And tomorrow, not work emergency comes up tomorrow. We're spending the whole day together. Your choice, what we do. The Science Museum. Done. And Saturday too, if you want. Emma's eyes widened. Really? You promise? Katherine held out her pinky. I promise. And if I break this promise, you have permission to ground me. Emma giggled, linked her pinky with Katherine's. Deal. They walked to the car together. Emma chattered about her day, about a project on renewable energy, about how her friend Madison got in trouble for passing notes. Normal 12-year-old stuff that Katherine realized she'd been missing for months. She'd been so focused on building an empire, she'd forgotten to be a person. On the drive home, Emma fell asleep in the passenger seat. Katherine glanced over at her daughter, really looked at her, and felt her heart crack open. When had Emma gotten so tall? When had she stopped looking like a little girl? Time was passing. Her daughter was growing up, and Katherine was missing it. She pulled into their driveway at 10:30, carried Emma inside, got her into bed without fully waking her, stood in the doorway watching her sleep, wondering how many more moments like this she had before Emma was grown and gone. Her phone buzzed. David, tell me you found a solution, Katherine said quietly, walking downstairs so she wouldn't wake Emma. Not exactly, but Jack Miller is here. Katherine froze. What? He showed up 20 minutes ago, said he needed to check something in the server room. Katherine, I think he knows what's wrong with Titan OS. Did you let him access the systems? Pause. Sarah Chen gave him credentials earlier, before the fire alarm. I didn't know until... David! Katherine's voice rose. He's not authorized. He could be doing anything, stealing code, planting backdoors. Or he could be fixing the problem. David's voice was calm. Katherine, I've been watching the system monitors. Whatever he's doing, the error rates are dropping. Katherine's mind raced. Jack had access to Titan OS right now, without authorization. If this went wrong, if he damaged something, if word got out that she'd let a janitor with a falsified background into their most sensitive systems. I'm coming back, she said. Katherine, Emma needs... Emma's asleep. I'll be there in 15 minutes. And David, don't let Jack leave. She hung up, looked upstairs toward Emma's room. She'd just promised her daughter she'd be there, and now she was about to break that promise for work. Again. Katherine closed her eyes, thought about the man she'd met in the diner, the man who'd lost everything because he put principle over convenience. What would Jack do? The answer was obvious. Jack would stay with his daughter. Jack would choose people over problems. But Jack wasn't the CEO of a billion-dollar company with hundreds of employees depending on him. Jack had the luxury of simple choices. Katherine grabbed her keys and drove back to Nexus. She made it in 12 minutes, parked in her reserved spot, rode the elevator to 3, her heart hammering the whole way. The server room door was open. Inside, Jack sat at a workstation, fingers flying across the keyboard. Code scrolled on 3 monitors. Sarah Chen stood behind him watching. Katherine walked in, Jack's hands stilled on the keyboard. Ms. Collins, Sarah's voice was nervous. I can explain. Out, Katherine said. Both of you. Sarah looked at Jack. He nodded slightly. She left, closing the door behind her. Katherine and Jack faced each other across the server room. The only sound was the hum of cooling fans and the tick of hard drives. You're not supposed to be here, Katherine said. I know. You don't have authorization to access these systems. I know. If you've damaged anything, I haven't. Jack turned back to the monitors, pulled up a diagnostic screen. Look, Katherine moved closer. The error rates had dropped from thousands per minute to dozens. System stability was climbing. The crashes had stopped. What did you do? Fixed the memory leak in the authentication module. Jack's voice was matter-of-fact. It was a recursive call that wasn't properly bounded. Every login created a new thread that never closed. Eventually, the system ran out of resources and crashed. That's it. That's the bug my entire engineering team couldn't find. They were looking in the wrong place, focused on symptoms instead of root cause. Jack typed a few more commands. I've patched it temporarily, but you'll need to rebuild the module properly. The patch won't hold under heavy load. Katherine stared at the screens. How long have you been working on this? Since Sarah called me, about 3 hours. 3 hours. My team's been stuck on this all day. Jack finally looked at her. Your team is excellent, but they're young. They've never seen a bug like this because they've never worked on legacy enterprise systems. I have. At Dynatech, we dealt with issues like this constantly. So you just happen to know exactly what was wrong? No, I read the error logs, recognized the pattern, traced the execution path, found the leak. Jack's voice was patient. It's not magic, Katherine. It's experience. Katherine sat down in the chair next to him, suddenly exhausted. You weren't supposed to be the solution to this. I know. You were supposed to be a problem I solved, a security risk I eliminated. I know that too. They sat in silence. Katherine watched code compile on the screen, watched system processes stabilize, watched Jack Miller, janitor, whistleblower, teacher, father, save her company with a few hours of work. Why did you help? She asked quietly. After everything, after I followed you, interrogated you, accused you of espionage. Why? Jack was quiet for a long moment. Because I remember what it's like when software fails and people get hurt, and because... He stopped, started again. Because for the first time in 8 years, someone looked at me and saw an architect instead of a janitor, even if it was only for one conversation in a diner that mattered. Katherine felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them away. I left my daughter alone tonight to come here, again. She's 12 years old and I keep choosing work over her, and I don't know how to stop. Then stop, Jack said simply. It's not that easy. Yes, it is. You just decide that she matters more than this. He gestured at the servers. More than the company, more than the success. You decide and then you act on it. Every day, every choice. You make it sound simple. It is simple, not easy, but simple. Jack stood. I should go. Your team can take it from here. Jack, wait. Katherine stood too. I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest with me. Okay. Can you do this? Can you fix Titan OS properly? Not just patch it, but rebuild the authentication module the right way. Jack's expression was guarded. Probably. Yes. How long would it take? With access to the source code and documentation, 2 weeks. Maybe 3. We have 6 weeks until launch. Then you have time. Katherine took a breath, about to cross a line she couldn't uncross. I want to hire you, not as a janitor, as a senior consulting architect, contract position. You fix Titan OS, train my team on enterprise best practices, help us harden the security. When the launch is successful, we transition you to full-time if you want it. Jack stared at her. Katherine, you can't. The board will do what I tell them because I own 40% of the company and I'm the one who built it. Katherine's voice was steel. I'm offering you a chance to do what you're actually qualified to do, to use your skills, to matter. And if it goes wrong, if I can't fix it, then we fail together. But Jack, I'd rather fail with you trying than succeed by shipping broken software. She met his eyes. I will not be Dynatech. I will not prioritize launch dates over doing this right. Jack closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. You have no idea what you're offering me. Yes, I do. I'm offering you what they should have given you 8 years ago, a chance to be right. He wiped his eyes roughly. I need to think about it. Think fast. Every day we wait costs money. Jack nodded, gathered his things, headed for the door. Jack, he turned. Thank you, Katherine said. For tonight, for fixing this, for showing me that sometimes the people we underestimate are the ones we need most. Go home to your daughter, Jack said quietly. She needs you more than this company does. He left. Katherine stood alone in the server room, surrounded by humming machines and blinking lights. Everything she'd built, everything she'd sacrificed for, and it suddenly felt very small compared to a 12-year-old girl sleeping at home. She pulled out her phone, called David. Have security lock down the server room. Nobody touches anything until morning. I want the authentication patch documented and backed up. Where are you going? Home. Katherine walked toward the elevator, and David, clear my calendar for the next 2 days. All of it. Katherine, you have the board meeting tomorrow and reschedule it. I made a promise to my daughter, and for once in my life, I'm going to keep it. She hung up before he could argue. The drive home took 20 minutes. Katherine let herself in quietly, locked the door, set the alarm, walked upstairs to Emma's room. Her daughter was still sleeping, curled up under her blankets. Katherine sat on the edge of the bed, watching her breathe, reached out and brushed hair from Emma's face. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm going to do better, I promise. Emma stirred, opened her eyes halfway. Mom, I'm here, baby. Go back to sleep. You came home. I did, and I'm not leaving. Tomorrow is Science Museum Day, remember? Emma smiled sleepily. You remembered. I'll always remember from now on. Emma's eyes closed. Katherine sat there until she was sure her daughter was deeply asleep, then kissed her forehead and quietly left. In her own room, Katherine changed into pajamas and climbed into bed. But sleep wouldn't come. Her mind kept circling back to Jack, to the choice she'd offered him, to the risk she was taking. If this went wrong, she'd be fired. The board would force her out. Everything she'd built would be given to someone else. But if she did nothing, if she shipped broken software, she'd become the villain in someone else's story, the executive who chose profits over people, the CEO who didn't listen when someone tried to help. She'd become Dynatech. Katherine's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Jack. I've been thinking about your offer. Can we talk tomorrow early before you take Emma to the museum? Katherine smiled despite her exhaustion. 7 a.m., my office. And Jack, bring the wish list for the community center. We're doing both. The reply came quickly. both Titan OS and the kids. You fix my software, I fund your program. Deal. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Deal. Katherine set down her phone, closed her eyes, and for the first time in weeks, she slept without nightmares about product launches and board meetings and quarterly earnings. She dreamed, instead of 12 kids learning to code in a rundown community center, of a man who'd lost everything finding his way back, of her daughter's smile when she kept a promise. And in the morning, when she woke up and found Emma already dressed and excited for the museum, Katherine Collins realized something that should have been obvious all along. Success wasn't measured in stock prices or market share or corner offices. It was measured in moments like this, in promises kept, in people lifted up, in choosing to be better than who you were yesterday. Jack Miller had taught her that, the janitor who was never just a janitor at all, and tomorrow in her office at 7 a.m., they'd start building something that mattered more than either of them could have imagined. Katherine woke at 5:30 a.m. to find Emma already in the kitchen making pancakes. Badly, batter splattered across the counter, eggshells in the bowl, but her daughter's face glowed with concentration. "I wanted to make you breakfast," Emma said, "since you're actually home." Katherine's throat tightened. "That's sweet, baby, but you know I have a quick meeting at 7, right? Then we're all yours." Emma's face fell. "You promised." "I'm keeping my promise. Meeting's 30 minutes tops. Jack Miller's coming in early so we don't lose museum time." The janitor. Emma flipped a pancake. It landed half on the pan, half on the burner. "Why's he meeting so early?" "Because he's not going to be a janitor anymore." Katherine grabbed a paper towel, cleaned up the spill. "He's going to help fix something important at the company." "Is he nice?" Katherine thought about Jack kneeling with those kids. Jack fixing Titan OS in 3 hours. Jack telling her to go home to her daughter. "Yeah," she said softly. "He's nice. He has a daughter your age, actually. Emma, like you." "Really?" Her daughter's eyes lit up. "Does she go to my school?" "I don't know. Maybe you'll meet her sometime." They ate misshapen pancakes together. Emma talked about the science museum exhibits she wanted to see. Katherine listened, really listened, and realized how much she'd been missing. Her daughter was funny, smart, had opinions about climate change and renewable energy that Katherine had never heard because she'd never asked. At 6:45, Katherine's phone buzzed. Jack was in the lobby. "Go," Emma said, already loading the dishwasher. "But if you're not back by 7:30, I'm calling the principal and reporting you." Katherine laughed, kissed her daughter's head. "Deal." She drove to Nexus through empty streets, arriving just as Jack walked into the building. He wore khakis and a button-down shirt, carried the same battered messenger bag. Looked nervous. They rode the elevator to 15 in silence. In her office, Katherine poured 2 coffees, sat across from Jack at her meeting table, not behind her desk. Equals, not boss and employee. "You're really serious about this," Jack said. "I don't make offers I'm not serious about. The board's going to lose their minds." "Let me worry about the board." Katherine slid a folder across the table. Standard consulting contract, $250 an hour, 40-hour weeks, 6-week initial term with option to extend. You fix Titan OS. You train my engineers. You help us avoid shipping anything that could hurt people. Jack opened the folder. His hands shook slightly as he read. "This is more than I made at Dynatech. You're worth it." And Jack, there's a second contract in there. He flipped the page, read, looked up at her with wet eyes. Nexus commits $50,000 annually to the Westside Community Center Technology Program. Equipment, software, licenses, internet installation, teaching materials. You're named program director, salary separate from the consulting work. Katherine, this is, I can't, you can, and you will. Because those kids deserve someone who believes in them, and you deserve to do work that matters. She leaned forward. I'm not doing this out of charity. I'm doing it because last night, watching you fix in 3 hours what my team couldn't fix in a day, I realized something. We've built a company full of brilliant young engineers who've never failed at anything. They don't know how to find bugs like the one in Titan OS because they've never worked in environments where failure meant people died. That's not their fault. No, but it's my job to teach them, and I can't do that alone. Katherine met his eyes. I need you, Jack, not as a janitor, as a partner in making sure we do this right. Jack was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was rough. 8 years. It's been 8 years since someone looked at me and saw what I can do instead of what I lost. Then it's 8 years overdue. He picked up the pen, signed both contracts without reading the rest. When do I start? Monday. That gives you the weekend to figure out childcare. Get Emma settled, whatever you need. Katherine stood. But first I need you to do something for me. What? Come with me to tell the board. Jack's eyes widened. Champagne. Now, Katherine, you should prepare them first. Maybe. They're expecting me at the office by 8. I'm going to walk in with you and announce that I've hired a senior consulting architect to save Titan OS. They can accept it, or they can try to fire me. She smiled. Either way, we're doing this. Jack stood slowly. You're risking everything. No, I'm betting on the right thing. There's a difference. Katherine grabbed her bag. Come on, let's go make some people uncomfortable. They walked to the boardroom together. Katherine's assistant looked startled to see Jack, but Katherine just smiled and walked past. Inside, 8 board members sat around the table. David Chen, Marcus Webb from engineering, 5 others representing major investors. They looked up as Katherine entered with Jack beside her. Good morning, Katherine said. I'd like to introduce Jack Miller, our new senior consulting architect. The silence was deafening. Richard Thornton, representing the largest outside investor, spoke first. Katherine, we weren't informed of any new senior hires. I'm informing you now. This is highly irregular. Senior positions require board approval. Consulting positions don't. Check the bylaws. Katherine remained standing, Jack beside her. Jack's going to fix the Titan OS authentication module and train our engineering team on enterprise security best practices. Marcus Webb leaned forward. Katherine, I appreciate the urgency, but we don't know this man. His background, his qualifications. His qualifications include 8 years as a senior systems architect at Dynatech Industries, where he built authentication systems for critical infrastructure. He holds 3 patents in secure data transmission. He was the lead architect on the hospital monitoring software used in 400 facilities nationwide. Katherine's voice was steel. And last night he fixed in 3 hours what your entire team couldn't fix in 8. That got their attention. How? Marcus asked. Jack spoke for the first time. Memory leak in a recursive authentication call. The system was creating threads that never closed, eventually ran out of resources. I patched it temporarily, but the module needs a proper rebuild. Marcus pulled up something on his tablet, checked the system logs. His expression changed. The error rate dropped to near 0 at 10:47 p.m. last night. That's when I implemented the patch, Jack said quietly. How did you even have access to our systems? Sarah Chen gave me credentials. She recognized the bug pattern from a case study I published years ago about the Dynatech incident. Richard Thornton's face had gone pale. Dynatech. You're the whistleblower. Yes. You were sued for corporate espionage, blacklisted. Your employment was terminated for trying to stop them from shipping broken software that could kill people. Katherine interrupted. Software with bugs almost identical to the one we just encountered. Jack was right. Dynatech was wrong, and I'll be damned if we make the same mistake. Katherine, this is a massive liability, Thornton said. If it gets out that we hired someone with his history, then it gets out. I'll handle the PR. Katherine sat down, gesturing for Jack to do the same. Gentlemen, here's the situation. We have 5 weeks until the Titan OS launch. Our authentication module is fundamentally broken. We can either spend 4 weeks rebuilding it ourselves and pray we get it right, or we can spend 2 weeks letting Jack rebuild it properly while teaching our team how to avoid this problem in the future. Or we delay the launch, Thornton said. Delay means breaking contracts with 3 major clients, refunding pre-orders, and destroying market confidence. We'll lose $100 million in revenue minimum. Katherine leaned forward. I'm not delaying, I'm fixing it. The question is whether you trust me to do my job. David Chen spoke up. I've worked with Katherine for 20 years. If she says this is the right call, I believe her. Marcus Webb nodded slowly. I've reviewed the system logs. Whatever Mr. Miller did last night, it worked. Our stability metrics are the best they've been in a week. The other board members exchanged glances. Thornton sat back, arms crossed. I want daily progress reports. Any sign this isn't working, we pull the plug. Agreed, Katherine said. And I want background checks completed by end of business today. Full disclosure of the Dynatech situation. Already done. I'll forward you the files. Katherine stood. If there's nothing else, Jack and I have work to do. She walked out. Jack followed. In the hallway, he let out a breath. That was terrifying. That was easy compared to what comes next. Katherine checked her watch. 7:24 a.m. I have to get home. Emma's waiting. But Monday morning, you and I are walking into that engineering department together, and you're going to teach them everything you know. Katherine, they're going to hate having me there. I'm a janitor who... You're an architect who's forgotten more about enterprise software than most of them have learned yet. She put a hand on his arm. Jack, you know what the hardest part of this is going to be. Everything. Katherine smiled. The hardest part is going to be believing you deserve this, that you're qualified, that you belong. She squeezed his arm. But you do, you are, and Monday morning we're going to prove it. She left him standing in the hallway and drove home. Emma was dressed and ready, backpack on, bouncing with excitement. You made it. Told you, 30 minutes. Katherine grabbed her keys. Science Museum, here we come. They spent 6 hours there. Emma dragged Katherine through every exhibit, explaining renewable energy systems and climate science and particle physics with infectious enthusiasm. Katherine asked questions, took photos, bought overpriced snacks from the cafe, and didn't care. Her phone buzzed constantly. She ignored it. Around 3 p.m., Emma tugged her sleeve. Mom, you can check your phone if you need to. I don't need to. I'm here with you. Emma's smile was worth more than every stock option Katherine had ever earned. That evening, after pizza dinner and a movie on the couch, after Emma fell asleep against her shoulder and Katherine carried her to bed, Katherine finally checked her messages. 43 emails, 12 voicemails, most from board members, investors, department heads demanding explanations about Jack Miller. One text stood out, from Jack. Emma had a soccer game this afternoon. Her team won 3-2. She scored the winning goal. Thank you for reminding me what matters. Katherine smiled. Texted back, my Emma and I spent the day at the Science Museum. Best day I've had in years. Thank you for reminding me too. She went to bed early, slept deeply. And Sunday morning she woke up to Emma making pancakes again. Better this time, almost edible. What's the occasion? Katherine asked. No occasion. I just like that you're here. They spent Sunday together too. Farmers market in the morning, bike ride in the afternoon, cooking dinner together in the evening. Normal things Katherine had forgotten how to do. Her phone stayed off the entire day. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Katherine dropped Emma at school, then drove to Nexus with butterflies in her stomach. This was it. The moment Jack Miller stopped being a janitor and became something else entirely. She found him in the lobby at 8 a.m., sharp, wearing khakis, and a sport coat that had seen better days but was clean and pressed. He carried a laptop bag instead of a custodial cart. Ready? Katherine asked. No, but I'm here anyway. They rode to the 3rd floor, the engineering department. Katherine had sent an email Sunday night announcing a Monday morning all-hands meeting, mandatory attendance. 60 engineers packed the conference room, young, brilliant, confident. They whispered to each other when Katherine walked in with Jack. Katherine stood at the front. Good morning. I know you're all wondering about the Titan OS situation. I'm here to introduce you to the person who's going to help us fix it. She gestured to Jack. This is Jack Miller, our new senior consulting architect. Many of you know him as the Night Custodian. Starting today, you'll know him as the person who saved this launch. The whispers grew louder. Someone laughed. Catherine's expression hardened. Thursday night, while you were all stuck on the authentication bug Jack identified and patched it in 3 hours, system stability improved 93% overnight. She pulled up metrics on the screen. These are the results. You want to know how he did it? Ask him, learn from him, because Jack has 8 years of experience in enterprise architecture that most of you won't have for another decade. Marcus Webb stood. With respect, how do we know the patch will hold under production load? Jack spoke up. You don't. It's a temporary fix. The module needs a complete rebuild. He walked to the whiteboard, picked up a marker. The recursive authentication call creates a thread pool that grows unbounded. Under light load, garbage collection keeps up. Under heavy load, you run out of memory and crash. He drew a diagram. Quick, precise, the muscle memory of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. The solution is to implement a thread pool manager with hard limits and proper cleanup. Estimated rebuild time is 2 weeks with full documentation. Sarah Chen raised her hand. I'll volunteer to work with you on it. I've been studying the error patterns and I think, good. Jack interrupted. I'll need at least 3 engineers full-time. Who else? 2 more hands went up, then a 4th, then 5 more. Katherine watched Jack transform. The nervous man from the lobby was gone. In his place stood the architect he'd always been, confident, knowledgeable, commanding the room with quiet authority. An engineer in the back called out, "Why should we trust someone who got fired from their last job?" The room went silent. Jack set down the marker. Because I got fired for trying to stop my last company from shipping software that could kill people, and I'd do it again. He met the engineer's eyes. If any of you ever encounter a situation where you have to choose between your career and doing the right thing, I hope you choose right, even if it costs you everything, because some things matter more than paychecks. The engineer looked away. Katherine stepped forward. Jack's going to be working out of the senior architect pod. He has full system access and my complete authority on anything related to Titan OS. Questions? No one spoke. Good. Meeting adjourned. Jack, your team, my office in 10 minutes. The engineers filed out, buzzing with conversation. Jack stood at the whiteboard staring at the diagram he'd drawn. Katherine walked over. You okay? That engineer was right to question me. That engineer was being an ass. You handled it perfectly. She touched his shoulder. But this is going to work, Jack. You don't know that. Yes, I do, because I've watched you teach kids in a rundown community center with nothing but borrowed laptops and hope. If you can do that, you can do anything. Jack turned to her. Why are you really doing this? The consulting contract, the community center funding, putting your reputation on the line. Why? Katherine thought about Emma at the Science Museum, about promises kept, about the person she'd been becoming versus the person she wanted to be. Because you reminded me that success without purpose is just expensive emptiness, she said, and because I'm tired of building things that don't matter. Jack nodded slowly. The kids are going to lose their minds when I tell them about the new equipment. Tell them tonight. Actually, don't tell them. Show them. Katherine pulled up something on her phone. Nexus Procurement ordered 15 new laptops, a commercial-grade router, and every coding textbook on your wish list. Delivery to Westside Community Center tomorrow at 3 p.m. Jack's eyes went wide. Katherine, that's the contract doesn't start until... Consider it a signing bonus. And Jack, she smiled, bring Emma to the center sometime. My Emma, I think they'd like each other. Your daughter codes? No. But maybe she should learn from someone who teaches because he cares, not because it's a job. Jack's voice was thick. Thank you. for all of this, for seeing me when everyone else saw a janitor. Thank you for saving my company, and for teaching me that the best solutions usually come from the people we overlook." They stood there for a moment, two people who'd found each other at exactly the right time, and Katherine felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope, not the desperate hope of a product launch or quarterly earnings, real hope, the kind that comes from doing something that matters with people who care. Jack's team arrived, Sarah Chen and 4 other engineers, laptops ready, questions prepared. Jack walked them through the authentication rebuild plan with steady confidence. Katherine watched for a few minutes, then left them to their work. She had her own work to do. Phone calls to investors, explanations to board members, press statements to draft. The mundane machinery of running a company. But that evening, when she got home at 6 instead of midnight, when she helped Emma with math homework and they made dinner together, Katherine realized something had fundamentally shifted. Work was important, but it wasn't everything. And the man she'd once suspected of corporate espionage was teaching her how to be human again, one honest conversation at a time. Her phone buzzed. "Jack, first day complete, team solid. We'll have the authentication module rebuilt in 10 days, not 14. Also, the kids loved the new equipment." Maya cried. "Marcus asked if you're hiring because he wants to work for someone who keeps promises. Pretty good Monday." Katherine smiled. "Pretty good Monday indeed. Same time tomorrow, I'll be there." She put the phone away. Emma looked up from her homework. "Was that Jack?" "Yeah, his first day went well. Can I meet his daughter sometime?" The other Emma. Katherine thought about 2 girls, same age, same name, from completely different worlds. Thought about what they could learn from each other. "Yeah," she said. "I think that's a great idea." And in that moment, Katherine Collins understood what Jack had been trying to tell her all along. The best architecture isn't built with code or capital. It's built with people who believe in each other, who show up, who do the right thing, even when it's hard. Everything else is just details. 9 days later, Jack stood in front of 60 engineers and pressed enter. The rebuilt authentication module went live across all test environments simultaneously. Every screen in the conference room showed the same thing: system monitors, holding steady error rates at 0 thread pools, managing perfectly. Sarah Chen let out a whoop. The other engineers burst into applause. Jack exhaled for what felt like the first time in over a week. Katherine watched from the back of the room, arms crossed, trying not to cry. 9 days. He'd said 10 and delivered in 9. Marcus Webb stood up. "Load testing begins tomorrow. If this holds under production simulation, we're golden for launch." "It'll hold," Jack said quietly. "Not arrogance, just certainty born from experience." The meeting broke up. Engineers clustered around Jack, asking questions, taking notes, treating him like the expert he'd always been. Katherine noticed something else too. They respected him now. The whispers had stopped. The skepticism had turned to admiration. She caught Jack's eye across the room. He gave her a small nod. She nodded back. Later in her office, Katherine reviewed the launch timeline. 4 weeks out, marketing ramping up, pre-orders exceeding projections, everything on track. For the first time in months, she felt confident they'd actually pull this off. Her phone rang. Richard Thornton from the board. "Katherine, I owe you an apology." She sat up straighter. Thornton never apologized. "For what?" "For doubting you on the Miller hire. I've been reviewing the engineering reports. Not only did he fix Titan OS, but your team's code quality has improved across the board. They're implementing security protocols they never considered before. Jack's a good teacher. He's more than that. He's changed the culture down there." Thornton paused. "The board wants to discuss making his position permanent. VP of Engineering Security. We'd create the role specifically for him." Katherine's heart jumped. "Richard, does Jack know? We wanted to clear it with you first. Can you feel him out? See if he'd be interested. I'll talk to him." She hung up and immediately texted Jack. "My office when you're free. Good news." He appeared 10 minutes later, still riding the high of the successful deployment. What's up? Katherine gestured for him to sit. The board wants to offer you a permanent position. VP of Engineering Security, new role. You'd oversee all security architecture, audit, code, train teams. 6-figure salary, full benefits, equity. Jack went very still. VP. Yes. Katherine, I've been here 2 weeks. And in those 2 weeks, you've done more to improve our security posture than we've accomplished in 2 years. She leaned forward. Jack, this isn't charity. This is the board recognizing what you're worth. He stood, walked to the window, stared out at the campus below. What about the community center? The teaching? You'd have flexibility. The role is strategic, not hands-on coding. You could still teach nights and weekends, and Jack, with a VP salary, you could expand the program, hire assistant teachers, maybe even turn it into something bigger. Jack was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was thick. 8 years ago, I walked out of a courthouse bankrupt and blacklisted. My lawyer told me I'd never work in tech again, that I should learn a trade, start over, forget everything I knew. He turned to face her. And now you're offering me a VP position. You earned it. Did I? Or are you doing this because you feel guilty about how I ended up as your janitor? The question stung. Is that what you think? I don't know what to think. Jack ran a hand through his hair. This is happening too fast. 2 weeks ago, I was mopping floors. Now I'm a VP. Katherine, people are going to say you're playing favorites, that there's something. He stopped. Something what? Inappropriate. Katherine's voice was sharp. Let them talk. I don't make decisions based on optics. I make them based on results, and you've delivered results. For 9 days, that's not exactly a proven track record. You had a proven track record at Dynatech. 8 years of excellence before they destroyed you for being right. Katherine stood. Jack, I'm not offering you this job out of pity. I'm offering it because Nexus needs what you have. Experience, integrity, the willingness to speak up when something's wrong. That's worth more than any degree or pedigree. Jack closed his eyes. I need to think about it. Take the time you need, but Jack... She waited until he looked at her. You deserve this. Stop believing Dynatech's lies about your worth. He left without answering. That evening, Katherine picked up Emma from soccer practice. Her daughter was covered in grass stains and grinning. We won again, 4-1. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Katherine drove toward home, then made a decision. Hey, want to make a quick stop? There's someone I want you to meet. Emma looked suspicious. Is this a work thing? Sort of, but trust me, you'll like it. She drove to the West Side Community Center. Through the windows, she could see lights on kids at computers. Jack was there, kneeling next to Maya, pointing at her screen. Katherine and Emma walked in. 12 kids looked up. Jack stood surprised. Katherine, I wasn't expecting. Emma wanted to see where you teach. Katherine put a hand on her daughter's shoulder. Emma, this is Mr. Miller, and these are his students. Emma's eyes went wide, taking in the computers, the kids coding the handmade posters about programming concepts on the walls. This is so cool. A girl about Emma's age stood up. Are you Emma too? Mr. Jack said his boss has a daughter named Emma. Emma looked at the other girl. Yeah, I'm Emma Collins. I'm Emma Miller. Jack's daughter smiled shyly. Do you code? No, I mean not yet. Is it hard? Maya jumped in. Mr. Jack makes it easy. Want to see what I'm working on? And just like that, Emma Collins was swept into the group. The girls clustered around a laptop, Maya explaining her project. Emma asking questions. Jack's daughter showed Emma a simple animation she'd built. Katherine watched her daughter's face light up with genuine interest. When was the last time Emma had been this engaged in something other than sports? Jack moved beside Katherine. You didn't have to bring her here. I wanted to. She's been asking about the other Emma for days. Katherine smiled. They look good together. Yeah, they do. They stood in comfortable silence, watching their daughters bond over code, and shared names and the kind of easy friendship that comes naturally at 12. I'm going to turn down the VP offer. Jack said quietly. Katherine turned to him. Why? Because I don't want to be a VP. I want to be here teaching, making a difference for kids who need it. Jack gestured around the center. This matters more than a title. You could do both. Not well. VP means meetings, politics, corporate strategy. I've done that before. It cost me everything that mattered. He looked at Katherine. I don't want to make that mistake again. Katherine understood. She'd made the same mistake herself, choosing ambition over presence until her daughter became a stranger. What if we restructure the offer, she said. Senior architect instead of VP. You audit, code, train engineers, consult on security. But limited meetings, no politics, more flexibility for this. She gestured at the kids. Jack considered. Why do you keep trying to keep me? Because you make us better, and because... Katherine paused, choosing her words carefully. Because watching you has reminded me what leadership actually looks like. It's not corner offices and stock options. It's showing up for people who need you. You do that every night with these kids. I want you to do it at Nexus, too. Before Jack could answer, Emma called out, Mom, can I come here and learn? Maya says they meet Tuesday and Thursday nights. Katherine looked at Jack. He smiled. There's always room for one more. Then yes, Katherine told Emma. If you want to learn, we'll make it work. Emma's squeal of delight made several kids laugh. Jack's daughter hugged Emma like they were already best friends. I'll take the senior architect role, Jack said. Same terms as the consulting contract, but permanent. And Katherine, I want something in writing about the community center. That Nexus commits to funding it regardless of my employment status. These kids can't lose this program if something happens to me. Done. I'll have legal draft it tomorrow. They shook hands. A partnership forged in mutual respect and shared values. That night, driving home with Emma, chattering about everything she'd learned, Katherine felt something click into place. This was what success was supposed to feel like. Not the hollow victory of quarterly earnings, but the solid satisfaction of building something that lifted others up. 3 weeks later, Titan OS launched flawlessly. System stability held at 99.97%. No crashes, no security breaches. Reviews called it the most robust enterprise software release in years. The launch party filled the Nexus campus. Press clients, employees celebrating. Katherine gave a speech thanking the team, but when she mentioned Jack Miller by name and explained how he'd saved the launch, the applause was thunderous. Jack stood in the back, uncomfortable with the attention. His daughter Emma was there wearing a dress she'd picked out herself, beaming with pride at her father. Later, after the speeches and toasts, Katherine found Jack on the balcony overlooking the campus. You should be inside celebrating, she said. I'm not big on crowds. You saved this company. You earned, the celebration. Jack shrugged. I fixed a bug. That's what architects do. You did more than that. You changed how we think about security, about integrity, about what matters. Katherine leaned on the railing beside him. The board voted today. They want to create a fellowship program based on your community center model. Nexus-sponsored coding programs in underserved neighborhoods across the valley. You'd oversee it. Jack's eyes widened. Katherine, that's how many centers? We're starting with 5. If it works, we'll scale to 20 within 2 years. That's hundreds of kids. Thousands eventually. Katherine smiled. You taught me that waste isn't just about thrown away computers. It's about thrown away potential. Kids who never get a chance because they're born in the wrong zip code. You're giving them that chance. Nexus wants to help you give it to more. Jack wiped his eyes roughly. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Yes, obviously yes. He laughed shaky with emotion. Maya's going to lose her mind when I tell her. Tell her tomorrow. Tonight, go celebrate with your daughter. She's been staring at you through the window for 5 minutes. Jack looked. Emma Miller waved at him, grinning. He waved back. She's proud of you, Katherine said. I'm proud of her. Straight A's this semester. And she's teaching Emma your Emma Basic Python. They've become inseparable. I noticed. They're good for each other. Katherine paused. We're good for each other too. This partnership. I'm glad I followed you that night. Jack smiled. I'm glad you did too, even though I thought my life was over when I saw you standing in that alley. Turned out to be the beginning instead. Yeah, turned out that way. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the party inside. Two people who'd found each other at the exact right moment, and in finding each other, had found themselves. 6 months later, Katherine stood in front of a ribbon at the newly renovated West Side Community Center. The building had a new roof, new plumbing, fresh paint. Inside, 50 computers sat ready. The program had expanded from 12 kids to 60 with a waiting list of 40 more. Above the entrance, a bronze plaque built for second chances, the Jack Miller Technology and Community Development Center. Jack stood beside her, Emma Miller on one side, Emma Collins on the other. Both girls wore matching coding club t-shirts they'd designed themselves. I can't believe you named it after me, Jack said for the 10th time. Believe it, you built this. We just provided the resources. Katherine handed him the oversized scissors. Want to do the honors? Jack looked at the crowd. Kids from the program with their parents. Nexus employees who'd volunteered as assistant teachers. Local press. City council members. All here to celebrate something that had started with stolen laptops and desperate hope. We do it together, Jack said, positioning the scissors so Katherine could hold them too. They cut the ribbon together. The crowd erupted in applause. Inside, the kids ran to their new computers with shrieks of joy. Maya immediately started showing younger students around. Marcus pulled up his latest project. Destiny demonstrated an app she'd built that tracked food waste in school cafeterias. Jack's Emma and Katherine's Emma stood at a computer together, already coding their heads, bent close as they debugged a program they'd been working on for weeks. Katherine watched them and felt her throat tighten. Her daughter had found a passion she never would have discovered if Katherine hadn't followed a janitor into the rain 6 months ago. Thank you, she said to Jack. For what? For teaching me what actually matters. I was so focused on building a company, I forgot to build a life. Katherine smiled. Emma and I have dinner together every night now. I haven't missed a soccer game in 3 months. Last week she told me I'm her favorite person. Do you know how long it's been since she said something like that? Jack put a hand on her shoulder. You were always her favorite person. You just weren't around enough for her to remember why. Harsh, but fair, Katherine laughed. I'm trying to do better. You are doing better. Jack nodded toward the girls. Look at them. 2 Emmas from completely different worlds brought together because you decided to take a chance on a janitor who was stealing your garbage. Best decision I ever made. Well, second best. First was having Emma. They watched the celebration unfold. Teachers working with students, parents taking photos, kids learning and laughing and believing in futures that had seemed impossible 6 months ago. A reporter approached. Miss Collins, can I ask you a few questions about the program? Katherine nodded. The reporter's first question was predictable. What inspired Nexus to invest in community technology education? Katherine looked at Jack, at the kids, at her daughter coding beside Jack's daughter, at the community that had been built from broken laptops and second chances. I met someone who reminded me that the best architecture isn't built with code, she said. It's built with people who believe in each other, who show up, who do the right thing even when it costs them everything. She smiled. Everything else is just details. The reporter scribbled notes. And the decision to name the center after Jack Miller, there's been some controversy about his history at Dynatech. Jack Miller was right at Dynatech, Katherine said firmly. He tried to stop a company from shipping dangerous software, and they destroyed him for it. Naming this center after him isn't controversial. It's justice. It's saying that doing the right thing matters more than protecting profits. And it's showing every kid who walks through these doors that integrity isn't a liability, it's a strength. Jack looked at her with wet eyes, mouthed, "Thank you." The reporter finished her questions and left. The celebration continued. At some point, Marcus approached Jack with a question about a bug. They huddled over a laptop, teacher and student working through the problem together. Katherine found herself standing alone, watching the organized chaos, feeling something she'd never quite felt before. Peace, not the absence of stress or challenge, real peace. The kind that comes from knowing you're doing work that matters with people you respect, from being present in your life instead of constantly racing toward the next milestone. Her phone buzzed. The board chair. "Congratulations on the center opening. Stock price hit an all-time high today. Turns out doing good is good for business." Who knew?" Katherine smiled. Typed back, "Jack knew. I just finally listened." She put the phone away, walked over to where both Emmas were coding, knelt down between them. "Show me what you're working on." Her daughter's face lit up. "It's a website for the community center. Emma and I are building it together. Look." And for the next 30 minutes, Katherine sat with her daughter and Jack's daughter, learning the basics of HTML, asking questions, being fully present in a moment that 6 months ago would have been impossible. Because 6 months ago, she'd been a CEO who couldn't see past spreadsheets and stock prices. Now she was a mother who'd learned that success without connection was just expensive loneliness. That the people we dismiss might be the ones we need most. That second chances aren't charity, they're investments in human potential. Jack had taught her all of that. The janitor who was never just a janitor. The whistleblower who'd lost everything and somehow still found a way to give. The father who'd shown her what it meant to prioritize people over profit. And in return, she'd given him back what Dynatech had stolen: his dignity, his purpose, his belief that doing the right thing could actually work out. They'd saved each other, built something neither could have built alone. As the sun set over the newly renovated community center, as 60 kids coded and laughed and dreamed of futures that were suddenly possible, Katherine Collins understood what Jack had been trying to tell her from the beginning. Some architectures matter more than code, the ones built on trust, on second chances, on the radical belief that everyone deserves to be seen for who they truly are, not who their resume says they should be. Jack Miller had built that architecture with discarded laptops and hope. Katherine had simply provided the resources to scale it. Together, they'd created something that would outlast any product launch or quarterly earnings report. They'd built futures, one child at a time, one second chance at a time, one moment of believing in people instead of dismissing them. And standing there in the center that bore Jack's name, watching her daughter code beside his, Katherine finally understood what success really meant. It meant showing up. It meant seeing people. It meant choosing integrity over convenience, even when it cost you everything. Jack had known that all along. It had just taken Katherine a rainy night and a janitor accessing restricted files to finally figure it out. Best mistake she'd ever made, suspecting the wrong person and finding exactly the right one. The architect of hope, someone had called Jack in a press article last week. Katherine thought that was exactly right. He'd architected hope for kids who'd never had it, for a company that had forgotten its purpose, for a CEO who'd lost sight of what mattered. And in the process, he'd reminded everyone that the most important code we write isn't in programming languages. It's in how we treat each other, how we lift people up, how we give second chances to those the world has thrown away. That was the architecture that truly mattered. That was the legacy worth building. Everything else really was just details.